What's up everybody? In this video I'm going to be showcasing a smooth run of Master Lair of the Mad Dragon that I've had recently from the viewpoint of a Paladin tank. At key points I will be showing you what to look for as well as what I've found that works best in the pug groups. So real quick, here's equipment and stats, enchantments and arties, insignia bonuses, and buffs. So now that we're in the dungeon, the first tip, as a tank you're pretty much the leader of the dungeon. You set the pace, so don't be afraid to call arties. Let the team know when to go slow, stop, save arties for a DPS check, etc. There is a caveat to this though. If you are newer to the dungeon and not completely comfortable trying to pay attention to the timers while getting smacked around repeatedly, let your team know, and I'm sure someone wouldn't mind taking over calling artifacts and letting you focus on your job, which of course is tanking. While I'm switching out a few things and making sure arties are good, it is important to note that in this dungeon specifically, mechanics are more important than anything. Having a solid team that understands this and can communicate with each other goes a long way here. Sure, having big DPS helps, but if they don't know what they're doing, their high DPS could actually hurt the run. God, I hate that phrase. Especially on the second boss. This first boss has several things to look out for. Both of the main things show up on the ground and give you very little time to react. The biggest thing is the red triangle of death. Even tanks will get one shot by this. The key to handling this is to tank close to the boss as you can. Always be prepared to move quickly. If you pay attention, I have to shield cancel several auto attacks just in order to get away in time. The other big thing about this death triangle is to try to have the boss positioned away from your DPS at all times. This will mitigate the risk of them getting caught off guard by its incredibly fast animation and one-shot potential. This boss is the phase I like to call the controlled chaos phase, and you'll see why in just a moment. This is the triangle of death. As soon as you see the outline on the ground, run. You'll also notice how the rest of the team are on the opposite side of the boss. Do your best to keep this consistent. At certain thresholds, she will spawn imps, succubi, and demons. Always check your surroundings to pivot the boss to face different directions while your team kills off these ads. Remember when I said controlled chaos? This is it. See all these additional ads she spawned in at 50%? Your team usually can't handle these by themselves, so it's up to you to help them out. Of course, if your stats and abilities allow it, that is. I found runs go much smoother when I tank several, if not all of these ads, and just let the DPS focus on killing them. This also puts a lot of strain on your healer though, so make sure they're on board as well. However, I found the healers are usually okay with just trying to heal one tank as opposed to chasing down 3 DPS and 1 tank, all at different points of the map. So this frame right here captures 2 things at once, the succubus eye and the tank buster. The eye, like everything else, will charm you, making you walk carelessly towards the succubus if you're looking in her direction when the animation finishes. So simply put, just look away. As for the tank buster, you will see the arrows and a flashing red line when she's about to let loose her damage, so you'll definitely want to try to mitigate that. Believe it or not, the timings actually do vary across advanced and master. Here, let's rewind the clip to when the arrows first are visible. Put up a capture of an advanced run, throw in a few timers. Now let's see the difference. Wow, 2 seconds versus 4. Keep an eye out for that tank buster. So here's another little trick. You can actually use a signpost and head to like Dread Ring or Protector's Enclave, whatever. Beat up on a dummy and get your AP back up. You almost always want to start your boss fights with a full AP daily. That way you can actually get that threat generated early so that the DPS doesn't steal it that quick. The second boss is the controlled DPS style fight. It's mostly up to your team to control the DPS they output towards the correct targets, which are summoners first, then warlocks, then the boss. Most teams aside from speedrun teams will call arties on the summoners as they spawn. First they kill them, then work down the warlock until no adds are left. After that, the DPS should wait until arties are off cooldown and just keep repeating this cycle. So starting off here, you want to try to get that aggro of that boss as quick as possible and jump to the other side of the adds. He will actually start with his tank buster, so you want to try to mitigate that as much as possible. You'll notice I went ahead and popped my daily, that way that Manticore bite went off and added the additional threat from that to start with. You kind of want to wait till your DPS kills those first adds and then drag him to the side of the platform. The reason you need him to be near the edge is so that if the summoners do end up spawning hounds, your control wizard or cleric can knock them off the ledge. The first 50% is not so bad, but in the second half you will spawn 2 summoners and 1 warlock at the thresholds. Without proper planning in CC, it's incredibly easy to get overran with these hounds. You can't simply just kill the hounds either, as when they die they will explode with a pushback effect and can easily knock a party member off the ledge and leave the team crippled. Once this red AoE animation is over, there's about a 95% chance he'll use his tank buster immediately after. I usually try to precast Absolution to mitigate this hit, then instantly pop Binding Oath to build my stamina back up. So you'll notice as he spawns these adds, I rotate him away from the adds, that way the DPS has a better field of view so they can see their targets, as well as prevent them from taking any catastrophic damage from that tank buster. So now that we're at the 40% mark, you'll see he actually spawned in 2 summoners this time instead of just 1. So from here on out, the thresholds are 40% like you just saw, 30, 20, 15, 10, and 5%. At each of these intervals, they'll spawn 2 more summoners and another warlock. It's imperative to try to completely clear the adds in between there and save your artifacts for the next run. A lot of teams will actually save their artifacts after the 15% mark and wait for a red AoE and then do a final arty call and burn that last 10% of his health. I recommend doing this just simply because it does save you time in the long run, but only if you know that you have the DPS to do so. Now we've made it to the final boss, the Mad Dragon himself. First things first, there are three major debuffs you want to watch out for here. The first one is called Balefire. It causes increased damage and it drains your AP over time. This one can stack and is a debuff given by the crystals that spawn around the map every 30 seconds or so. At about 3 stacks, you're pretty much guaranteed to eat through some scrolls of life during the Hellfire burn phase, or aka the white noise. The second one is called Plague of Spells. It causes you to take increased damage as well and also reduces your incoming healing. This one comes from the little circle AoE that pulls you in. It's less common to get. The last debuff, it is the Hellfire burn, aka the white noise. This debuff not only makes you take increased damage but also reduces your defense and can stack up to 10 times. However, I found that most parties won't even live to see the 10 stacks if they have any lingering skulls or a few stacks of the Balefire debuff. This damage ramps up and it starts to hurt after the 4th or 5th burst. Even tanks can get one shot without prior debuffs at 10 stacks. So in short, just avoid the debuffs. During this fight, I'll be pausing a few times to explain what to look for and how to best position yourself to mitigate the chances of taking these debuffs and ruining your run. Starting off, run in, smite the dragon, and shield up to immune the knockback. Call arties immediately after that. The first crystals will spawn on the outside edges, so everyone should know which corners not to stand in here to get a clean first burn of his health. And speaking of those crystals, those are the ones that give you the Balefire debuff, so you really want to try to stay away from their explosions. When he raises up like that, he's about to pounce on you. What I like to do is try to go into tab, check to see where those crystals spawn, and try to find a safe spot. Now once he jumps, you see I try to rotate him towards the wall. That basically just keeps his breath aimed at the wall instead of putting pressure on the rest of your team. That's pretty much your goal this whole boss fight, is just to keep that breath away from your team, as well as doing your best to not take any of those debuffs I told you about before. So you see him raise up, that means he's about to jump on you again. What I do, smite, tab, and run around. See him jump towards me like that, try to aim him towards the wall, and let him do his thing. So that was actually a really good example of how quick you actually can spin this dragon if you get into a predicament where he is facing the team before he actually uses that poison breath. So here in just a moment, I'm actually going to take one of these Plague of Spells debuffs. You'll actually notice him use that red AoE that kind of pulls me in, and I just didn't quite make it out in time. This white flash is the first tick of that Hellfire Burn debuff. So if the clock is ticking, hopefully you can get this dragon's health down before you reach about 8 or 9 stacks, because after that, everybody's just going to keep dying and dying and dying. And there you have it. The Mad Dragon is now a dead dragon. Not bad for a 31-minute run. I do have to thank these guys that were in the party with me, because it sure was a very smooth run. Well, there we go. Hopefully you liked the video, or at least learned a thing or two you may not have known before. I do just want to say that I appreciate you watching the video, and if you want to see more in the future, then you know what to do. Until then, I'll catch you next time.